How about them Cowboys? It's the Cowboys Squad, sponsored by Game Time. Everything Dallas Cowboys every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from America's team the way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Get ready and squad up. It's the Cowboys Squad Show, starting now.
Always better when we have the intro music and the theme video, right? Got to have the intro for the show. It's a must. Absolutely. Hey, it is the final day of June, the final show of June, and that means the start of Cowboys training camp is next month, or how about this, guys? 3 weeks from today. 3 weeks. It's going to be here before you know it. But until then, the Locked On Cowboys Squad Show rolls on. We start, as always, with a big welcome to the co-host of the daily Locked On Cowboys podcast, Mr. Landon McCool. Welcome back, Landon. Good to have you on. And my co-host on the in-season Cowboys postcasts, the coach, Glenn Stretch Smith. Coach, you're looking good down there. Kind of shifted things up a little bit. I like it. Love the new mic. Sounds great. Looks great. And I think we're going to get a lot of positive feedback from the comment crew coming up. Now,
all right, let's pretend. Breaker 19, you got your ears on there, good buddy?
10-4. 10-4.
No smokies down the road. We're clear, Coach.
Coming up on our show tonight, the very latest with the Cowboys, as always, right? Including we have another rumor. Man, can you believe that?
What are the odds?
Gosh, where do they come from? But I have to hit on this real quick because, Landon, you were not with us, but we spent a lot of time on our last show, or was it with you? If maybe it was you, I apologize. This whole year's been a blur. We spent a lot of time talking about Colin Cowherd. Remember that? We talked about his comment. Okay. He made comments that this was going to be a one and done season for Brian Schottenheimer and the coaching staff. Well, now everybody's running with it. I mean, it's everywhere. I mean, it's like we hit on it last week, and now I'm not saying it's because of us, but it's, if you search Cowboys today, that's like one of the top stories. So, you know, I was thinking about it, Coach, as a coach, this time here as we get in between and we get ready for the start of training camp, do the coaches, do you think Schottenheimer, the other coaches, they pay any attention to any of this, or are they're so locked in on the team and getting ready for training camp?
I'm going to tell you, I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what, and I don't care from Bill Parcells to Barry Switzer, Jimmy Johnson. I don't care what anybody says. The media and what is being said in the media is heard not only to the coaches, but in the coaches' locker room. It's heard everywhere. They used to hand out, I don't know that they do it anymore, literally they would hand out, the PR department would put together clips of every NFL article, and they would bring them around and, you know, hand it into everyone's office. So hell yeah, they hear it. You know what I thought was interesting was doing the radio show today. I'm you know, they've already got the NFL hot seat rankings, and I mean, as a coach, when you get fired, it's one of the worst. I mean, I'm serious now. I mean, I never root on anyone to get fired, because it affects more than you. It affects your family. It affects your children. It affects your parents. It affects everybody. And so the last thing that I like to get caught up in is all of the hoopla over hot seat rankings and who's getting fired. But I mean, for crying out loud, 1 through 4, it's Mike McDaniel, Brian Daboll, who you could see both of those guys, Shane Steichen, and then they've got Schottenheimer. They have Schottenheimer listed in front of Brian Callahan, who we know the job that, you know, he was dealt a tough task with not a very good football team. But it's amazing that and I am going to take you're not going to take any credit for it. By God, I'll get on here and take credit for it. We came out and said it. Now, if that's the reason that ember started to a fire, you know what? You go to your church and I'll go to mine. But I know this. I mean, it's incredible how people have run with that story. And when you know Jerry's background, you know this is not something that he normally does. And the more you start like diving into it and thinking about it, it's like, you could get it to make sense. And I think that's the hard thing is here he is, a coach that's waited forever to get his first time shot to be a head coach. And they're already taking pot shots at him.
Yeah. I mean, I just have a hard time believing this, that he would be a one and done coach just because of Jerry's history there, because of, the situation. I mean, I think it doesn't truly make a ton of sense. I think, in my opinion, I think we'd have to be a very specific scenario. I think you would have to be a scenario in which he had lost the team. He had lost the locker room, which, based on the kind of vibe that we're getting right now, would be a very precipitous fall at this point. And that certainly is possible. I mean, you get in here, it's a tough schedule. Maybe you lose a bunch of games in a row and suddenly that's the word on the streets. But I just have a really hard time believing that that there would be I don't have a hard time believing it. I just don't see a ton of different scenarios in which there are the Cowboys are having that level of failure, and that it isn't a situation where they would bring Schottenheimer back for one more year to try to do things, because I think giving someone like Schottenheimer 1 year to completely turn this around, I think is unfair. And like I said, short of him, leaving the team off significantly worse than where they were, I just can't imagine a scenario that would be so bad for Schottenheimer that Jerry wouldn't at least give him another second year opportunity. And I'll say this too, because Dak's contract plays into this, right? Like, I mean, you can't necessarily just, start over or start fresh. Marcus and I did have a podcast about this. It was a user question wrote in on the mailbag. What does a rebuild look like if they wanted to kind of start fresh next year? And the truth of the matter is that any sort of real rebuild or blow it up scenario would have to include your $60 million quarterback. And I don't imagine that with all the guarantees that they've signed that's going to happen. So yeah, I just think that it wouldn't make a ton of sense to just kind of bring out and place in another head coach while you have mostly the same stuff everywhere else. Like that was going to be the issue that really drug this team down. Unless, there are a couple of different scenarios where specifically the head coach is at fault and it's so bad that you feel like you have to. I just think any run of the mill season or a failure to like advance in the playoffs or just the kind of normal reasons that Cowboys fans would be rightfully angry at their head coach, I don't think it's enough to kind of fire a guy after 1 year.
Well, here's what I'm going to say, and this is just me, and by no way am I advocating this. By no way am I saying I think this is going to happen. I'm not. Here's what I know is I know that, and we've talked about this multiple times, Jerry listens to certain people. Yeah. I know he listened to this head coach and the previous head coach when given the opportunity to talk about the quarterback and to say, is he worth that kind of money? And he listened to them and stepped up and took their advice and their evaluation and paid his quarterback. Now, he's doing the same thing on the defensive side of the ball, and he's going to step up and he's going to pay the defensive end. Now, like it, don't like it, agree, disagree. I mean, we talked about this. I think they ranked the quarterback Pro Football Focus ranked the quarterback about 17, something like that. I think that's ridiculous. But at the end of the day, that's where they have it. And I know that Jerry is I don't want to say he's not frugal, but he knows where his money goes. And I want to tell you, I'm just giving you an example. You pay the quarterback 60, you pay the defensive end whatever you're going to pay him, and you go out there with a tough schedule and post a 5-12 record, it's going to get ugly. I'm telling you, it's going to get ugly. And so, do I think that I'm never going to get on here and advocate for anything other than to say this is better financially? He's going to say, I'm paying my money and I'm giving top-ranked guys top dollar, and that's what we go out there and put out there. Whew. Yeah, you talk about reading the clips and reading what's going on and, picking up dinner at P.F. Chang's to go because you don't want to show your face. It'll get rough. I'm telling you, it'll get rough.
Well, two things. Number one, I was going to say, Coach, Landon brought up Dak first, so you're clear. You're for the record. But no, in all seriousness, I think, too, in context, what Cowherd said, Landon, was that not only were the Cowboys going to have a bad season, but they were going to get beaten up by the Eagles and the Commanders. And so to Coach's point that, if you look a certain way, you can connect those dots. I think if this team just falls on its face, that's kind of a worst case scenario. Yeah, like I agree with Coach, it could get ugly. But I think the flip side of that, though, is no, I think they're expecting Schottenheimer and the moves that they've made and getting Pickens, they're expecting this team to go the other way, to get better and to build. And I think as long as they're building and improving and getting better and eventually winning, then that should be good.
But I think that's the thing for me is that, like, that's why I don't think this is a likely scenario, because I just think that even if they were the same as they were last year, or if they even took a small step back while they're trying to steady their feet, I think depending on how it looks and the circumstance, the context there, I just don't imagine that there are a ton of paths in which I certainly imagine a ton of paths where the season ends and Shoddy's on the hot seat, which, that certainly could be possible. I just don't know that, like, there's a ton of different, pathways for a season that ends with Shoddy being fired, like, at the end of the year. All right.
Yeah. I mean, again, all I'm saying is, and I don't think it's likely. I don't think I'm not there at all, but I can tell you right now that a 5, 4, 5, 6 win season, it will not be a good outcome. I can tell you that, because Jerry is going to expect more when he pays these guys that kind of money. He's going to expect more than that, and he ain't going to fire the players. So I don't even. Again, it's like a scenario that I'm uber uncomfortable with, because I know what it's like to be fired, and I would never champion any of that. And I hope, it will make this podcast look better. It'll make you guys' podcast look better. It'll make everybody look better. They go out and win 11 or 12 games, 10 games, and get in the playoffs. It sure make it easier. But, I'm just making the statement that I can see why, if Cowherd feels like, which he said, the Eagles are going to, just blast them twice. The Commanders are going to blast them twice. And then they lose a bunch of other games, which that's kind of what he was saying, is that, hey, Jerry's going to regret making this hire by Thanksgiving. There's a lot of football to play after Thanksgiving.
And kind of a big game that night.
I also hate this because he doesn't offer any kind of alternative. Like, he's just blasting the situation. Like, Jerry's going to regret it. Like, not like, oh, I have another solution here. It's just like, oh, Jerry's going to regret it because they're going to play a bunch of playoff quality football teams and potentially lose. So it's like, yeah, well, that's possible, certainly.
As DJ Dog 31 says, it's that time of year, right?
Exactly.
A lot of opinions, a lot of clicks. Well, before we get to our rumor du jour, there is one rumor that we can put to rest officially tonight. Corner Jalen Ramsey. He may have a new home in Dallas, but he also has one now in Pittsburgh after getting traded to the Steelers, who also acquired tight end Jonnu Smith. Miami might be looking for a tight end. The Cowboys have a few. We'll see what happens there. But more importantly, the Jalen Ramsey option for the Cowboys now officially off the table.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that this was actually really an option for the Cowboys so much. I mean, I just don't know, the trade, the cost. He's an older player that's already kind of struggled to stay on the field at times. So I think if they're going to go get another veteran cornerback, I just don't know that they're looking to go this specific route, especially since other teams were clearly vying for this situation a lot harder than the Cowboys were. And the trade that they ended up doing with Miami was very interesting too. With getting Fitzpatrick and Jonnu Smith involved in that. So just an interesting trade for the Miami and Pittsburgh, to be honest. I do agree. I think it certainly opens things up for Miami to be looking for a tight end. The Cowboys may have one more than they can probably fit. And maybe they'll be willing and make a deal somehow.
Yeah, I didn't think this. I mean, I didn't think Jalen Ramsey to the Cowboys had any steam. I mean, everybody, we talked about it, bought a home in Fort Worth. That's a long way to Frisco.
Yes.
Fort Worth. And, I just, to me, that didn't make a whole lot of sense. Pittsburgh feels like they're going all in. They've got whatever they've got. I mean, to give up Minkah Fitzpatrick, who is an absolute just cobra in the middle of the field. I mean, he could cover ground. He can hit. He's a great ball hawk guy. And they give that up to get, a good corner, a really good corner, a really good tight end to go with Freiermuth. And we know what they did with signing Aaron Rodgers. And now I'm sure they're going to look for a veteran. They're going to look for a veteran receiver. And it does. It feels like the Steelers are in almost all in mode with what they're doing. I don't know what's going to happen with Watt, but I mean, to me, the Steelers are all in, and I kind of tip my hat to that. Like they're gambling their rear end off that these guys are going to stay healthy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would do it with Aaron Rodgers as my solution at quarterback at this age. But you're right. I mean, they feel like they're certainly kind of at a spot where they're pushing their chips in. I mean, I kind of, when I saw the trade come down this morning, I was a little bit shocked because it was the first announced as a straight up trade, and I thought that was crazy to me. Like a straight up trade for Minkah to Jalen. Like, to me, Minka's a younger player. I understand the positional value, but Minkah is one of the better young safeties. And he's not that young, but he's certainly younger than Ramsey. And I just felt like it was it didn't make sense. And then when they announced the trade picks, the draft picks and Jonnu Smith, it made more sense because Pittsburgh definitely needed another tight end. They needed to kind of figure out a way to play that two tight end formations that Arthur Smith is going to want to play. So I think it made more sense, but I don't think that was the kind of thing that the Cowboys were going to be interested in necessarily. So it certainly was outside their price range.
All right, we're going to take our first time out. When we come back, we will bring you the big rumor that I found this morning. I want to run by both of you. We'll get to that when we come back. I apologize. I'm going to try to turn my phone off. I forgot that tonight is or today is opening day for NBA free agency. So like I keep getting every time
Ding, ding,
signs.
ding, ding. Yeah.
A lot of moves going down. Include the Mavs got D'Angelo Russell. We'll see if they do anything else. We'll get into that. All right. Hey, thanks for being with us. Want to hear from you via the comment crew. Please jump in. We got Thomas in, George, Terrence, DJ Dog 31, Donnie. We'll hear from you. Terrence, we'll hear from you in a bit. This is the Cowboys Squad Show on a Monday night. Hey, if you ever wish managing your money felt easier with Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, your investments, and spending all in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you are also building wealth. And if there's an issue that you're having, they have everything in one app, which really makes it easier to manage your money day to day. And if you're sharing your finances with someone else, Monarch Money can help you stay on the same page. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. Okay, welcome back to the Cowboys Squad Show. Landon McCool and the coach, Glenn Stretch Smith, happy to be with you on this Monday, 3 weeks away from the start of Cowboys training camp. Can't wait. All right, so we came across another rumor. How about this one? The Cowboys acquiring Kyle Pitts, the number 4 overall pick in 2021 from the Falcons. Now, here's where there's a little bit of air underneath it. Terrence Parsons, Micah's brother, wrote that imagine Jerry trading a second-round pick for Pitts. We in the bowl. Okay. Former Cowboy Des Bryant expressed the same desire. And then over the weekend, ESPN's Jeremy Fowler reported, quote, that Pitts would be open to a trade. So, Coach, you mentioned earlier, all you need is an ember, a little spark to get something going. There it is. There it is.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Netflix I guess the trailer came out today for the Netflix documentary.
Yep.
And Jerry said we're a 365 soap opera here. And that's true. I mean, that's what we're talking about. I see the Cowboys doing that. It feels a little far-fetched, but you know, Jerry's a gambler. I mean, he is not afraid to gamble. And if he saw some upside to that, and who knows? I'm gonna tap the brakes on it just a little bit. I'm not trying to put the kibosh on what maybe you guys are thinking, but I think that's about like a 35 or 40 to 1 shot winning a Kentucky Derby.
All right, Coach is tapping the brakes, and I'm pulling the emergency brake. I just don't see this one at all, because the problem is that the Cowboys are trying to be a more efficient running game, and you tight end is a key position at that. We were already talking about having guys that can shield and block at best, and I think Pitts is not even that guy. I think Pitts is basically a glorified wide receiver in a big body, which is great and fantastic for an offense. But I have a feeling that he's going to be deployed and used in a lot of the same ways that you would probably use CeeDee Lamb, and operating in the middle of the field. So it's a lot to overcome. You have to trade for him. You already have a lot of tight ends, so you probably would have to trade one of those tight ends as well. it's just there's a lot of ins and outs, and at the end of the day, you're getting a player who basically operates in a way that's kind of overlapping with your superstar wide receiver. I don't know. I just think that if you're gonna trade for an upgraded tight end, I can certainly understand getting someone more dynamic than Ferguson. But I don't know if like you're gonna go that far out of the way to get somebody that isn't really a blocker at all and not really used in that way. I think that they would want a tight end that might be a little bit more versatile as well.
And here's the other thing. I mean, Zach Robinson, the offensive coordinator in Atlanta, he, kind of cut his teeth in the NFL under Sean McVay. We know Sean McVay, uses that tight end who can run through the middle of the field,
That's right.
who can do the kind of things to make you check coverage if you want to move him in motion or you want to, you want to scatter him from a formational standpoint. To me, I don't even see Atlanta doing that. It just if I can't get it to make sense there, then how could I get a landing spot to make sense? Because I just don't see it taking off.
You got a young quarterback who's coming in there. You're going to trade away the tight end that he knew from last year. I think that they probably would get more and better use out of Kyle Pitts than the Cowboys would, just because of the way that they play their tight ends versus the way the Cowboys play their tight ends. So this one's I think all just juice behind the names involved. Yeah. I don't know that there's much smoke here.
Yeah, and final thought too. I think in addition to what you both said, with this coaching staff year number 2 coming up, that continuity is important. And I think it's fair to say, I think maybe we all thought maybe Kyle Pitts was going to have more of an impact in the NFL. Not saying it's his fault per se, but hasn't had the run I think that he's hoping for.
Absolutely true. And it's funny because we just talked about Arthur Smith trading for a tight end, but I think that it was always kind of an odd fit for me, even though Arthur Smith clearly likes using his tight ends. Pitts isn't necessarily the kind of tight end that he's traditionally used a lot. I mean, so I think that, Robinson coming in and taking over play calling duties, it may be a better fit than it was for the coaching staff that originally drafted him in Atlanta. So, I tend to think that this is a situation where folks are kind of trying to read tea leaves, but they're not reading them close enough, I think, because like it's, Pitts has not had a great year. He's disappointing. Let's swap him out for another team. It's like, this isn't the NBA, as we're all getting alerts about the NBA, like where, players are easily swapped out like that. I think teams want to try to kind of give this guy another chance, especially a high draft pick like that. That front office isn't going to want to admit defeat on that situation. And I have to imagine part of the appeal for them to go out and get Robinson was to activate Kyle Pitts, was to try to find a way to get Kyle Pitts involved. So I just don't think they're looking to get rid of him.
All right. Well, Coach, hey, you mentioned August 19th. Okay, we have Cowboys training camp 3 weeks from today, and on August 19th, a month later, that's when America's team, the Gambler and his Cowboys, is going to debut on Netflix. I did not even know this was going. Did you? I'm sure you guys did. I had not heard a lot about this, and like Coach, I just saw the trailer today. It's going to be an 8-episode, each episode about 45 minutes long.
It's going to be, I mean, for all the Cowboys fans, it's going to be, I've heard a lot about it. It's going to be, there'll be some things in there. Anytime you can get Charles to talking, Haley, anytime you can get Michael talking, anytime you get Emmett talking, I mean, those guys, they see things a certain way. And I think it's going to be, I really do. It'll be one of those things that I think would be, if you're a Cowboy fan, it's going to be a must watch.
The Cowboy fan of me, especially at my age, the Cowboy fan of me is super excited I actually haven't watched the trailer yet. I haven't had an opportunity, but I certainly plan on watching it when I get home. I was aware that this was happening. This is something that they've been talking about a little while, that there's been a Netflix crew following him around. I say, as a Cowboys fan, I'm excited. As someone who covers the Cowboys, I definitely am going to be, going like this as I press play and find out what exactly I'm going to have to be commenting on whatever kind of craziness shows up on those things. So there's always going to be must-watch television, which is great fodder for watching and great fodder for guys like Colin Cowherd, but for folks that cover the team that have to try to explain Jerry's behavior at times as best they can, it's always an adventure. So I'm super excited. I can't wait to see it, honestly.
That was such a once in a lifetime. I mean, that I know there have been other dynasties, and Coach, look, I'm not, you were a part of it, so I'm not speaking for you in any way. I'm just totally different perspective, but man, I mean, that was, I sometimes wonder like what would have happened or what that would have been like with social media and everything today.
Man.
It's just incredible, but I can't wait. A little TMI about me. I love documentaries. If I could just watch documentaries the rest of my life, I would do that. I thought that the Last Dance one about the Bulls, I mean, got to cover a lot of that run. So that I was just glued to all that stuff. So I can't wait. It's going to be, just in time for the season to start, and it'll add to what Jerry already, like you said, Coach, Jerry already said, it's already a 365-day-a-year soap opera. So this will be just part of the show.
And when you see that, you're going to see that, I mean, it'll show it. I really think it's going to be good for the Cowboys fans, because to see Jerry in those different settings, it just opens a different perspective into
Humanizes
how he looks at things, and how he how he truly values, and how it's important to him. This is not an owner who is okay just making a bunch of money. I mean, and I think some people believe that. Well, Jerry, just it's all about merchandise, and it's all about the brand, and it's this and that, and he doesn't really care. It is all about that. But I will promise you, I think once you see this, you'll have a different understanding, or just a different perspective on how he values winning and how bad he wants to win.
Yeah, I agree. I am 100%. I do think that there is a level of earned cynicism around Jerry Jones and around, billionaires in general, I would say. And I think that it's easy to be cynical about, that these guys don't care about winning, or that Jerry doesn't care about winning, or all that he cares about is making money. And I agree that I think that making money is obviously a high priority for Jerry Jones and his family, of course, like everybody. But I also agree that I think that a good portion of part of the reason that the making the money is a big thing for him is because I think he's competitive in that way too, So I think that Jerry Jones is a very competitive person, right? And I think that that's part of his DNA and part of why he wanted to buy the team buy a team in the first place, is that he likes the juice. He likes to be part of that. He likes, the strategy of team building and all that. And, as much as he's involved, he always wants to, be viewed as being more involved, right? Like as a decision maker, as the guy that's doing this because he loves it. I think if he didn't love, owning a team and didn't love football, he wouldn't try so hard to, take credit for the things that he did, the things that he does. So, I think that there is a misconception about Jerry Jones a lot by people that kind of see him only on a surface level, or only occasionally on some of the interviews. I think if you're someone that's around him, and I'm not one of these people, I'm not around him all the time, but I am someone who has watched thousands and thousands of hours of interviews of Jerry Jones. I've been around him personally at times. I've seen him at different stuff. And I think the more that you examine that, the more you get the sense that he is a big softy and that he does care about this stuff way more than some of the other owners around the league. And I think his behavior, shows that in a lot of ways. And I think it's easy to be cynical about it. But I'm excited to see that side some more of Jerry Jones, because I think that is a side that folks don't see as much, because they have their own perception of who this person is without really kind of getting a lot of the information.
And again, I know how he is. I know what kind of person he is. I've been with him in a lot of one-on-one.
Yeah, Stretch does know these. Yeah, exactly.
I do know that. You will never. And I'm dead serious when I tell you this. And part of this is, they say that first step to recovery is recognition. I mean, I recognize I'm immensely loyal. You will never hear me say a bad word about Jerry Jones or about the Jerry Jones' family. I will never say one. And the reason that I won't is because he was, I'm telling you, as far as a guy to work for, was compassionate. He understands people. He's very giving. And I mean, he is a hell of a guy to work for. Now, we know how he takes open criticism, because like you said, Landon, he wants to be a part of it. I don't think he wants to. He knows he doesn't know enough and doesn't spend enough time to pull the trigger himself, but he wants to hear what scouts have to say. He wants to hear what pro personnel guys have to say. He wants to hear what the coaching staff has to say. He wants to know all of that information. And at the end of the day, does he want to be the first guy on the phone if somebody's I mean, he's that's part of it. But in no way, shape, form, or fashion do I think, you criticize somebody for, and you'll understand in this documentary, because I mean, I've heard the story a bunch of times, how he mortgaged every single thing he had. Everything he had. I mean, his family's wealth, he mortgaged everything he had to come up with $150 million. I mean, he put it out there. And I mean, to me, that's a hell of a gamble on a team that was not going the right direction. I mean, this franchise was not going the right direction with Tom Landry, with Tex Ram, with Gil Brandt. They were not going the right direction. And
he took a lot of heat too for things that got handed to him by the previous owner, who was afraid to take on Tom Landry, who was afraid to do what was necessary with an aging coach who was a legend. Jerry took that on when he didn't necessarily need to. I think it got him on the wrong foot with the Dallas media up front, and he took a lot of extra unnecessary criticism, which wasn't necessarily fair.
But by the time I got there, I mean, all of that was obviously in the rearview mirror, and he had decided, that he was going to move on from Jimmy. And, we all know how Michael was mad and throwing trash cans and doing all the things he was doing. And I think it took guts to move on from Jimmy. I mean, it did. And then, when I got there was the heat of all that, all that surrounds the Dallas Cowboys. And that's the thing too, that you'll understand when I think you'll be able to, kind of put your hand in the middle of it, is how much everything is magnified. We'll go back to what we talked about earlier on this segment. I'm telling you, I mean, if you win here, Podna, there's nothing better. And if you're getting your ass kicked here, there may not be anything worse.
And I would just add one more thing before we go to break. And I mean this sincerely. I don't think, I think Jerry has been kind of a target or bullseye for criticism for so long, right? That you just become numb to it, right? Like it's just, make fun of Jerry, rip on Jerry, critique Jerry, right? It's just almost like habitual. But I think two things. One, I mean, I think when he took over the team and what that Cowboys dynasty did, I mean, the NFL right now is king. Okay. When the late 80s, early 90s, that was not the case. And I would say, you could argue with me and we can split hairs, but I would say that Cowboys dynasty was a huge, huge part of catapulting the NFL to where it is today.
Oh my God.
Not even close.
What he's done for the NFL is undeniable. I think he's made more money for people in the NFL than probably any single individual maybe in the NFL history, with the TV deals, with everything like this. Look, I think Jerry Jones is a very complicated figure, right? And I think that we as a society, not to get too deep into this, we like to villainize and heroicize everybody, right? It's either you're a villain or a hero. People are complicated, right? Jerry Jones more so than most, right? He has done some things that are laudable, that are incredible. You see him, do things, be personal with guys and have real personal relationship with folks. And then you see him do things that you leave you shaking your head to. How can you do that, Jerry? How can you be that kind of person? People are complicated, and I think that Jerry more so than anything. And I think that's what makes good television. But I think to kind of view Jerry as only this, curmudgeon-y old, power hungry guy who doesn't listen to anybody, that is a terrible view of exactly not who he is. Yeah. And if anything, Jerry's faults may be that he listens to too many folks. He loves a lot of guys, and he likes to talk to a lot of different folks. Yeah. And maybe he listens a little too hard to some folks that he shouldn't. But I think he's a complicated, interesting figure. And I think that if you're interested in learning a little bit more about him, I think you will in this documentary.
All right. Going to take a time out. When we come back, we have an NFL player throwing shade, not at Jerry Jones, but at the Cowboys. We'll tell you what that is. Also, we will get to your comments. I want to invite everybody to get in via the comment crew. Stephen White has jumped in and says hello to everybody. Stephen, good to have you back, my man. Hope all is well. Dana has jumped in. Jesse T as well. Thank you for being with us. We know we got a lot of people watching live as well. Thank you for being with us on this Monday night. This is the Cowboys Squad Show. We are back. See, that was quick. That's not too bad. You can handle that. That's a quick break. It's not like you have to sit there for 5 minutes. It's like 5 seconds, if that. The coach, Glenn Stretch Smith, and Landon McCool with us on this Monday night, 3 weeks from today, the start of Cowboys training camp. All right, well, in the meantime, you guys, a lot of guys are playing in golf tournaments and going to basketball games and throwing out the first pitch at baseball games. Well, former Giants and now Eagles running back Saquon Barkley was at a celebrity softball game over the weekend. And according to Barkley, he said, quote, when he was out there, he never heard a word from the Commanders or the Cowboys. And then, Coach, he had a quote that I thought you would appreciate. He said, that's why it's BTA when I see them. And I said, what does BTA mean? I've never heard that before. And then when I found out, I thought, oh, Coach would know that. BTA means belt to ass. So Barkley is saying when he sees the Cowboys and the Commanders, it's going to be BTA.
Yeah.
So a little bulletin board material.
Yeah. Yes, that's good. And different people are motivated by different things. And if he uses that to motivate him and he thinks he needs to, BTA it, then Stretch will just SMH it. That's it. Whatever.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, he's whatever motivates you is fine. Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't think that seems very contrived to me. Like, oh, they didn't pick up the phone to call me to offer me the money that Philadelphia did. So I mean, if you're looking to hold a grudge, that sounds good. I don't know. To me, it seems like you're looking to hold a grudge, and more power to you. You're obviously a very successful gentleman. You just won a Super Bowl, so congratulations on that. But I don't know. I don't know if it's going to give him an edge on anything.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, when they're winning, it's easy. It's easy to do that. I mean, it's a great thing about football. Hey, man, when you're winning, you
talk all the trash you want. Yeah,
that's it. You're drinking the wine, and when you're barefoot and you're getting on them grapes, it ain't very fun. So at some point, you get tired of stomping the grapes, and you want to drink some of that wine. So, I mean, again, if he uses that for motivation, and that's what gets him cranked up, that's good for him. And the fact that, again, they have a damn good football team, and you know what, they're on top of the mountain right now, and it's easy when you're up there to beat yourself on the chest and say, hey, we'll belt the ass, whip whoever, go get it on, brother. I mean,
to his credit, I mean, he's been the one. He's been the stomped grape for most of his career, right? Like, when he was with the Giants, he was the one who was underneath the feet. So, I mean, now you're the feet. Now you're the one dancing on us. So please enjoy your time. We'll see how it turns out in 2025.
There you go.
Yeah. Again, that's
that's football, baby.
He deserves that. He's worked hard coming back from an injury, and when you win, it's easy to do. I didn't hear all this when he was playing with the Giants, though.
That's right. That's why I was smiling. I was like, man,
where was that? Where was that motivation when you were getting the deputy dog crap beat out of you? Where was all that at?
Because I definitely remember some games that Saquon was in where the Cowboys absolutely dog walked him. So
no.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, great. You're the Super Bowl champ. Listen, like Coach said, you've got all the rights. You've got the stage. Have at it, buddy. I'll stand here and enjoy and listen, because that's what we do. And until it's our turn to be up there and be the ones calling on folks, I'll sit here and take it, because that's all we can do.
That's all he can do. He's got the bullhorn, and you know what? Let him fire off his pie hole as long as he feels like he wants to do that. I'm just saying, on the flip side of it, when you're with the Giants, where was that motivation?
That's right.
It was just okay, you moved to Philadelphia and you discovered cheesesteaks and whatever. You became this rolling ball of butcher knives. Okay.
I think too, it's just all comes back to the Cowboys, though, doesn't it? It all comes back to, even something like that in their head a little bit,
100%. Folks whispered that name into his ear, because I'm sure that they're looking for an article to write about the Cowboys.
Yep.
That's how it works.
Yep. All right. Hey, we have a ton of comments. My apologies. I can't read everyone. We won't have time, but I'm going to just pick on a few and let you guys kind of fire off. Chris Baller 250 says, got to give Shoddy at least 3 years. DJ Dog 31 says, if this offense fails, it will be due to not getting a good enough running back in here. I'm hoping this group will be productive, but we will see. Thomas Bush says, can we still get Stephon Gilmore? There's a few for you right there.
Yeah, he's still out there. I don't think Stephon Gilmore really wants to go to training camp. I mean, I think he's a veteran guy, going to keep himself in shape. He understands what to do. So yeah, if you get out the training camp, you get through those first preseason game, and you don't like what you got at corner. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that that he's at the top of their list. I will guarantee you that.
All right.
And I'll take the DJ Dog comment. I certainly think that they could upgrade the running back position. I think at this point they want to see what they've got, and they're going to wait for a clear upgrade to become available. But if this offense makes or breaks this year, I don't know that it's going to be on the quality of the running back versus a bunch of other things, just because of the way modern offenses are. I mean, the running game is a lot of times built up front, and I think that's the strategy that the Cowboys are kind of using this go around. And I think that that's part of like the influence of the analytics department in the front office is the kind of understanding of how to build your team and how to spend those resources. Having a good running back is important. I'm certainly not trying to suggest otherwise, but I think that the most important aspect of that is having a solid scheme and having a really good group of guys up front who can move people off the ball, who can create the holes. The cherry on top is having a great running back. And I think, speaking of Saquon Barkley, right? Like, I think Saquon Barkley, like Coach said, I don't know that it was because he suddenly found his motivation that he had the year that he had. I think
found
it
the
might
best
have been
offensive line in football.
Thank you. And the best offensive line coach as well, best run game, coordinator. So yeah, I think that has everything to do with, the kind of success that the offense had and specifically the run game. Did Saquon Barkley contribute to that? Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. He took what was an A situation and made it A+, right? Like, but I think that, if we're talking about things that can make or break the offense for the entire season, I don't know that running back talent is necessarily the thing that's going to do it versus, Dak missing a bunch of time, the passing game just not being good or just never getting in sync, Pickens having a full meltdown, any number of other scenarios that potentially could happen for the Cowboys this year.
All right, Terrence.
Ultimately, the reason you want a great back is because he's the guy that can make the safety miss in the hole.
Yeah.
Can he make, if you're in 12 personnel, and follow me here, 2 tight ends, 5 offensive linemen, you get 7 of them blocked, you got a hat on a hat. A great back makes the safety miss in the hole, and he can do that. Just like you look at Baltimore, and the reason Henry, he just stiff arms and runs the guy over a bunch and makes him miss. So a great back is a guy that can make you miss in the hole. Now, I'll tell you that if you don't have a very good offensive line, you could have Jim Brown. It wouldn't matter. You wouldn't ever get yourself in position to make the safety miss in the hole. And so I think not only do the Cowboys need to go to camp and see what they have from a running back standpoint, they need to go to camp and see what their up front 5 look like. What do they and how are they going to mesh and come together? And if all that happens and you don't find your guy, or you don't think you've got your guy week 2 out there, go get yourself a running back. There'll be 1 or 2 of them cut loose, I promise you. And then at that time, are they great ones? Maybe not. But if that's the way you feel, that there'll be a back out there.
There's certainly guys that could be great in the right situation, right? Maybe you can provide the right situation. I will also add in that the 2 guys we're talking about here, both also had running quarterbacks, which changes the math as well in the run game. So I think that also contributes to that situation. So these are all just points being like, that running back is an important position. It certainly is a conduit of the running game. It's part of the passing game as well. Having a diverse group of runners who can do a lot of different things is important. But as far as like the thing that could potentially make or break the offense this year, I think that there are certainly a number of things that I would list first there.
All right. Let's see a couple more here. Terrence says if the boys have minimum injuries to key positions, they'll win 10 to 11 games and sneak in as a wild card. Donnie says, okay. Dana says nobody wants Amari Cooper.
I think that was in response to someone earlier suggesting that Amari Cooper get signed by the Steelers, which
I think that's true too. It doesn't seem like people are knocking down the door to get him at this point.
Maybe true in a vacuum as well. You're
right. Stephen White says, I've wanted a Pickens since Derek Harper. There you go. Or Alvin, excuse me. Get my Harpers mixed up. Let's see. Rain King GGW says, how much would you be willing to give up to upgrade at running back? And those are pretty much the we've kind of hit on that.
I think it depends on what the running back, right? Like, I mean, if Saquon Barkley is available, what can we trade for him? Listen, I'd love to remove that motivation and bring him over to the Cowboys, but I don't know that he's available. So I think it matters on who it is and how much they can upgrade and like the scenario. I think it matters about how much you're going to pay them, how much they're currently being paid. But I think a situation that you're looking for is, the kind of situation we laid out where a team maybe drafted a guy in this class. They like a young guy that they've got. They've either got a veteran that's on an expiring rookie contract or on a deal that they have paid money out of, or that is looking for an extension and looking to kind of get rid of a guy that is a starting quality player potentially, but is not necessarily needed at the current place that he's at, or they're going a different direction. And then I think those are the opportunities you're going to get to kind of buy low on a situation where you could be surprised by the outcome. Because again, with the running backs, a lot of times for the top 4 or 5 guys, they could run anywhere. It doesn't matter who's blocking in front of them. It doesn't matter the scheme. But for the vast majority of the NFL and running backs, the fit matters. And if you can get the right fit with what the Cowboys are trying to do, which is, maybe a little bit more gap man, maybe more duo stuff, maybe more pulling guys. So, if you can find guys that are kind of, fit what you're trying to do there, there's a potential situation where you get a surprising situation because they walk into a ready-made situation that really fits what they do well.
Yeah, I mean, again, beauty's in the eyes of the beholder. So, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what you got, and then gauge what you have up front. New offensive line coach, little different scheme, maybe blocking it a little different. Let's see what we got instead of the doctor walking in and cracking you across the knee with the mallet and you kick real hard. Let's hold back a little bit and see what we got.
All right. Well, we have one more quick segment coming up, and when we come back, guys, one little final send-off story involving Trayvon Diggs. I want to get your thoughts on that. We'll do that when we return. Our final segment coming up next. This is the Cowboys Squad Show. Welcome back to the Cowboys Squad Show. Landon McCool, the coach, Glenn Stretch Smith. Our final couple minutes here. We will be back with you again in July on Thursday morning with Marcus in for Landon tonight, the final night of June. 3 weeks from today, the Cowboys will open up their training camp in Oxnard. Can't wait for that. Guys, we've mentioned Trayvon Diggs quite a bit at different times during this offseason. Well, apparently, a source told CowboysCountry.com that when asked about, what direction they're going to go with Diggs, are they worried? Are they concerned? Are they going to cut him? Or are they going to stick with him? Is he going to bounce back? Apparently, the source said, we will wait on the rehab, wait on possibly cutting him, wait on panicking. So they're okay with where he's at now. They're going to wait, and kind of like you said earlier, Coach, and you too, Landon, let's see what happens in training camp, see where they're at. So not a surprise.
I think that's all they can do, really. I mean, they haven't had a ton of insight into what his rehab has been off the facility, but there is also reason to be a little bit more positive about the recovery this year as opposed to last year. I mean, he has clearly been working very diligently. He was working with his brother, who has come back from his ACL injury, I think a month ahead of schedule. So there is a lot. He came back when he was in the mandatory minicamp. It sounded like he was in a good spot as far as where they expected in his recovery. So I think at this point they're just kind of in wait and see mode, right? Like they were, look, I think the Cowboys were very clearly frustrated with the way Trayvon attacked his recovery last season. I think that there has been strong indication that folks think that it may have contributed to his re-injury, and I think that there was some not so subtle messages potentially sent through the media that Trayvon, needed to kind of make sure that he was taking care of business this offseason when recovering from that knee surgery. I think right now the Cowboys have seen what he's done coming back. They're generally satisfied with what it is, or just okay with it. They're not, super happy or super thrilled. And I think that that's why they're in continued wait and see mode. Is I think they probably got a positive, report on his knee coming back from minicamp, but they want to see a couple of positive situations in a row before they're going to feel comfortable with that situation. And Trayvon's in a kind of a very tradable, situation at this point. If the Cowboys want to do something with his contract, because his guaranteed money is basically already paid out, they definitely don't have to hold on to him. So I think right now it's been kind of a standoff a little bit, like a Cold War situation. But I think now that he's been in the building this last few weeks because of the mandatory minicamp, they've seen his knee. I'm hoping that maybe that's thawing a little bit, but they're still kind of indicating, hey, let's see what happens when we get to training camp. If things kind of continue this path, great. If not, there may still be moves to be made.
I'm going to tell you this. I mean, Jim Maurer and Britt Brown are as good at that. They're the trainers. Britt Brown is the rehab guy. Excuse me. They're as good at their craft as there is in the business. And Stephen and Jerry know that. And when you're good at your business, you are able to gauge where guys are. You're able to see and put an opinion. And normally they're really, really good at what they do. And so, Britt Brown carries a lot of weight around there. And I'm going to tell you that if he, if it's not satisfactory to him what Trayvon has gone through, he is not going to be able. He will not be able to not say that. He'll take himself in there and give an opinion, and I think you'll be able to know really quick in Oxnard. If Diggs starts on the pup, if Ravel starts on the pup, then the first question is going to be whether it's Calvin Watkins or whoever is out there every single day. The first question is going to be, when are they coming off? What is the game plan here to get these guys back on the field? And we're going to know pretty quick. I think this is not going to be one of those situations that's going to drag on. Not for Diggs. It will for Ravel if he's knowing that, they just drafted him and all the things that they had to go through there. But I can tell you that if Britt Brown is not happy with where Trayvon Diggs is, doesn't lend to a very feel-good ending in that situation.
All right. We will leave it there for now, but great insight, both of you, as always. Appreciate it very much. Landon, Coach, this show flew by. That's a good sign. And we're now, when we do it again, we're going to be less than 3 weeks away from the start of training camp. Sounds good. I like it. Guys, thank you. We'll do it again on Thursday. Landon, have a great week. What do you guys got coming up on the daily Locked On Cowboys podcast?
It's offensive line week this week, so we're going to be deep and diving into some of the offensive line rooms, see where the Cowboys have kind of developed in that area. There's been a lot of change in that room and in that section of the coaching staff as well. So there's lots to talk about. So we're gonna dive into all of it this week.
All right, look forward to that. Landon McCool, Marcus Mosher on the daily Locked On Cowboys podcast. Make sure you check that out all week long with the O-line. Coach, I'll join you again on Thursday morning. Look forward to it.
Yeah, looking forward to Always looking forward to get on here and chop it up a little bit.
Yeah. Amen. Well, you sound good. You sound great. We appreciate it.
Hey, thanks a lot. I appreciate that.
So let's get some positive comments on Coach's mic, and let's turn that around, right? All right.
Get those reviews in.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for watching, for listening, and we'll do it again on Thursday. Until next time, this has been the Cowboys Squad Show on a Monday.